Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to check out Drop Zone. It's for 2 to 4 players for ages 8 and up, with the average playtime being about 5 to 10 minutes per round. And I have to say per round because players can agree to a point limit at the very beginning. And obviously the more points that you guys agree to, the more rounds you're going to have to play to get there. So Drop Zone is a very simple, easy to play card game. It revolves around humanitarian aid. So without further ado, let's just take a quick look at the components and see how the game is played. Okay, so as far as your components are concerned, this deck contains 52 cards, and these cards have 2 numbers on them. You've got a large blue number, which is used for end of round and end game scoring, and then you've got this smaller number, which is the actual card value. In terms of game setup, what you're going to want to do is shuffle the deck of cards. You're going to give each player 5 cards to form their starting hand, and you're going to want to turn face up. This is going to be the first drop zone of the game, and then more drop zones will be added throughout the game, so you want to make sure that you have enough space to do so. Alright, now player turns are very simple. Basically, you play a card, and then you draw from the deck to bring your hand back up to 5 cards. In terms of playing a card, all you're going to be doing is you're either going to be playing a card onto an existing drop zone or by creating a new one, or by playing a card face down in front of you to form your quote-unquote debt. And what that looks like, let's just take a look at this. We're going to have some cards here. Now, there's a value of 8 here. This card has a value of 8. Whenever you play a card from your hand onto an existing drop zone, it has to be lower than the current value. So I could not play this 12 or this 9. I could not play another 8. It has to be lower. So I could play this 3 or this 1 on top of this 8. Alternatively, I could play a card and just create a new drop zone, like I could put a 12 here, like so. Finally, if I don't want to do either of those two things, I can instead play a card face down into my debt. And we'll just pick one like that. And I could just put it face down. You cannot look at these cards throughout the game. You have to remember what you put in your debt. And I'll explain why the debt is important in a minute. So I guess just for the sake of example, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this 12 down here to form a new drop zone. And then after that, the player will go ahead and draw from the deck to bring their hand back up to 5 cards again. Pretty simple stuff. And it's as simple as that. Players will continue taking turns basically playing cards either into their own little debt area here face down or face up into these drop zones here, either by adding to an existing drop zone or by creating a new one. The game ends when so many drop zones are formed, immediately in fact. As soon as a player creates the number of drop zones necessary to end that round, the round immediately ends and then scoring happens. Speaking of scoring, what will happen, again, this is just example purposes, this is not actual gameplay. More than likely, players will have more cards, but this is an example of a player's debt pile. And what they're going to want to do at the end of a round is compare the values in their debt with the numbers showing in the center of the table in these various drop zones. If you happen to match any values, like here's an 8 here, and here's an 8 here, so this player would earn themselves 6 points. You've got a 3, there's a 3 here, this player would go ahead and earn themselves 4 points for that. Any 5s? Okay, there's a 5 here, so I just earned 5 points for that. And then here's another 8, so I would get an additional 6 points. Now, if you had a card in your debt that did not match a card that was in the center of the table, you would get minus 2 points. So basically, you sum up all of your points, and then you write them down, and then that will conclude the round. And then after that, players will check to see if they've reached the agreed upon total at the very beginning of the game, and whoever does so first will end up winning. Alright, so before we go, I just want to quickly touch on these 0 cards because they sort of change the way the game is played slightly. Let's just say that there's a game in progress right now. Again, this is just example purposes. But someone goes ahead and plays a 0 on top of an existing pile. And what will happen is that'll just basically reset the pile. Players can then put more cards on top of this regardless of the value that was here before. There's a little 5 here, so players can start this pile off with a 10 or 11 or whatever the case is and then work their way down again. If it just so happens that players play cards on this pile, there's a 7, there's a 6, and let's just say that a player puts another 0 on top of it, that'll just basically wipe the pile out null and void, and that's it. Now at the end of the game, let's just say that there is a pile with a 0 underneath here somewhere. That card on the very top, in addition to the 0 underneath, can both be matched for end game or end of round scoring. So this player will not only look to see if they have a 6 in their debt pile, but they'll also look to see if they have any 0s, and then they can score points on each, assuming they have it. If not, of course, they get that -2 points. Alright, so there you have it, a very brief look at Drop Zone. It's important to stress that I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just a brief overview so that you could see how the game was played. As far as the game itself, it's quick, light, and easy to play. It's probably... Alright, so there you have it, a very brief look at Drop Zone. It's important to stress that I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just a brief overview so that you could see how the game was played. As far as what I thought and everything else, the game obviously is light, quick, and easy to play. I think it's really meant to be a filler, and as such, I think the default point value of 100 is pushing it. I think that 25 to 50 points is a bit more realistic, just because filler games are meant to be quick, light, and easy. It's not meant to be dragged out over the long haul. The longer you play this game, the more it overstays its welcome. So again, 25 to 50 points I think is a bit better. That way you can get back to the larger game that you were playing before you decided to fill it in with this. So if you guys want to see my full review, you can, www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can keep up to date with any new content I've been to publish. This is Vince, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.